今晚要干嘛？宵夜镜来讲。那今天晚上的来宾其实不是台湾人，但是全台湾应该超过一半以上的人，或者是有在看新闻的人都认得他的脸。那为什么他这么有名呢？两个原因，一来是他就真的很帅，二来是第二个原因是因为他在去年11月，他促成了台湾副总统萧美琴在欧洲议会发表了历史性演说。So tonight's guest isn't actually Taiwanese, but chances are over half of the Taiwanese population, or at least anyone who keeps up with the news, has seen his face. And he's well known for multiple reasons. First off, it doesn't hurt that he's incredibly good looking. Second, I mean, good looks aside, the second reason for his fame is that last November he didn't just help facilitate, he played a key role in making history by helping Taiwan's Vice President, Xiaobi Kim, deliver a landmark speech at the European Parliament. 我们今天晚上欢迎对中政策跨国议会联盟 IPAC 共同创办人暨执行董事。Welcome to our show, Mr. de Pulford.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
It was the first time I had to do it in both English and Chinese. Sorry, that took a while.
Okay. Good for you.
First and foremost, I've got a small gift for you.
Oh, yeah?
Sitting right here. Okay. Small is maybe not the right word, but so it's actually here, I'll let you open it.
Okay.
It's actually a giant bowl that I received from the NCAT, which is the National Cultural Association of Taiwan, and it's big enough to hold your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then some. And at the bottom of the bowl are illustrations of quintessential Taiwanese dishes.
Oh, yeah.
Meatball soup, braised pork rice, and 四神soup. We grew up eating those, and if you show that bowl to any Taiwanese person living overseas, and there's a good chance they'll feel an immediate wave of nostalgia. It's quintessentially Taiwanese.
Well, you know, there are many Taiwanese living in London, but they're not going to see my bowl because it's going to be mine. It's going to be in my house, and I'm going to use it. No, thank you very much indeed. Extremely generous of you.
Give you a lot of street cred. Okay, that aside, one of the questions before we delve into that historic visit last year, and before I ask you your thoughts on China's ethnic unity and progress promotion law, which is a mouthful.
Yeah.
I want to start with a simpler question, which is, how are you, and how has Taipei been treating you so far?
So I got in yesterday. Thank you for having me, by the way. You know, it's a delight to be here. I've seen your show. I like the format. I like the depth that you're able to go into. So it's nice to have that opportunity. Most of the time my interviews are very short, sharp, never about me, always about politics. So
right.
it's quite a privilege. How has Taipei been? I love it here. I love it here. I'm always tremendously welcomed, but I'm super tired and super jet lagged.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that.
No. It's not that. It's that England was playing this morning, and I had to see England.
Of course. So
I got in last night, and I was up super early, and yeah, I'll be recovering. And then we've got a busy few days with the delegation that's come over.
Can you count how many times you've been here?
I don't know, it's like 15, 16, something like that.
Do you remember the first time you were here?
Yes, that was in 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you already, when was IPAC founded?
2020.
Okay. What was the purpose of your first visit to Taiwan?
I came here with a politician from the UK called Lord Alton, who'd always been very active on Taiwanese stuff, but at that time I was getting quite heavily involved in what was happening in Hong Kong. And I spoke at, which is the Catholic University?
Fujian.
Yeah. I spoke at Fujian, and I talked about religious freedom and stuff, which is an area that I've been working on for years. Mm-hmm. So I came and I did that in 2019. But interestingly, the seed for IPAC was planted then.
At the university or at that trip?
No, just on that trip. I remember when he was still foreign minister, we met with Joseph Wu on that trip. Mm-hmm. And it was a good meeting. And I remember walking away from that thinking that this idea to pull people together, politicians from diverse backgrounds, to try to work on China together was really born then. So yeah, Taiwan has a lot to answer for. In fact, I said to Joseph Wu when I saw him relatively recently, you know, you're to blame for all of this, you know.
I didn't know he played such an important role in that.
Well, in that meeting, he was talking about international support and collaboration and how important it was.
Yeah.
Remember, the background to this is what's going on in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a lot of people over here obviously looking at what was happening in Hong Kong and thinking, okay, one country, two systems is not going to work. Mm-hmm. So there's that real sense of foreboding. And I think what Joseph said made me think more seriously about an idea that had been in my mind for some time.
I want to pivot to what you just said about where you grew up. You said that you grew up predominantly in the UK,
Yeah.
but you also spent some time in South Africa, right?
That's
if I recall correctly. And also you did, so you were in South Africa, but that's when you were like a child.
Yeah.
And then you spent some time, I learned, in Rome. What were you doing in those places?
Okay, so we moved to a little country called Lesotho in southern Africa. It's a landlocked country. It's quite near kind of Eswatini. It's sort of a similar kind of country to that. And my father, who was a civil servant, had a job working with the UK government on loan to the government of Lesotho for a few years. So our whole family moved, which was a tremendous culture shock for us, like in many ways.
How little were you?
I was 12 when we went.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were pretty formative years.
Right.
And it did form me in quite a big way, not least because I'd come from a place like Canterbury in England is, or at least was, a pretty homogenous place. I mean, there wasn't a lot of cultural variation where I was from. There weren't many people of colour. And all of a sudden, I moved to a place where there were basically no white people.
Right.
We were absolutely the minority. And that was, for me, a very important and formative perspective to have. But that's very different from what happened later. So when I moved to Rome, I put myself forward to train to become a Catholic priest. So I lived in Rome in what's called a seminary, where they train priests. That should have taken 7.5 years before being ordained. I was there for pretty much 5 years.
That's pretty much how long it takes to be a doctor.
Yeah. It's full on. It's full on. In fact, actually, all of these degrees that we talk about now, they have their historical roots in the degrees that they give in seminaries. So you're supposed to do 3 degrees, basically. You do a philosophy degree, you do a theology degree, and then you do something called a license, which is, I guess, the equivalent of an advanced master's on top of that. But I didn't get that far.
So you got the 2. You got the first 2.
Yeah.
Theology and what?
Philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Why did you not go that far?
I wasn't very good at it. Okay, so I'll explain it like this. Like, priesthood in the West is a very difficult thing to live. It's not like it once was, where there was a sense of like cultural Christianity and priests would be looked up to as a figurehead of the community. It's very different now. You know, there's a latent suspicion of priests in a lot of places. You have to be celibate. You know, you can't have any kind of partner, which is very countercultural. And on top of that, the work is just really hard. You know, you're just giving your whole life. But in seminary, there are a bunch of things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to study hard.
Of course.
I didn't really do that.
Okay.
You're supposed to pray hard. Wasn't that good at that.
Okay.
The celibacy thing
was hard.
Wasn't that good at that. So just like in general, I wasn't very good at it.
I love your candor. I really just love your candor.
I mean, it's the way it was, you know, and it was, again, a very formative and beautiful experience.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't replace it with anything.
Of course.
But I think it's fair to say that I have been better at other things in my life than that.
Okay. And then, after that, you've decided to take a different path.
Yeah.
What was that path? Where did that lead you?
So before I went to seminary, I was already kind of working in the UK Parliament. Mm-hmm. So I did an internship there.
Wait, how old were you when you were in Rome?
Oh man, now you're asking. I have to work this out. I gave my 20s to it, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I first started working in Parliament, I think, when I was 21.
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
And I did an internship, and I was working with a member of Parliament who just like gave me free rein to do what I wanted. And what people don't understand about parliaments is that when you're in, you can do stuff. Like,
right.
Everything's about access. Mm-hmm. So because I was in there, and because I had access to politicians who were working on stuff I cared about, then immediately I got involved with work that I cared about, because I just could. So I was very fortunate in that way, and I found myself with a mentor, a political mentor, this guy who I came here with in 2019, Lord Alton, who really looked after me. But it was during that year where I was pretty sure, right, I'm going to do this priesthood thing. Mm-hmm. So after that first year in Parliament, I went off to Rome. Mm-hmm. But then when I came out of Rome, I came out to like nothing. I mean, you give everything away to go. you have nothing. I had no savings, and I had this strange black hole in my CV. It's like, can you imagine? Like, you go for a job.
4-year gap year.
Yeah. You go for a job interview, like, well, okay, what have you been doing? It's like,
I was in Rome.
I was in Rome, like training for the priesthood. It's not a great pitch to get employed.
It's a fun pitch.
It was, I mean, it turned out okay, but I was lucky. I think a lot of people who leave find themselves in quite a tricky situation.
Sorry, yeah.
But I was all right. I came back and got straight back into parliamentary work. So I was doing that, and I kind of refined my craft in the sense that I think a lot of people think that parliamentary work or parliamentary advocacy or even political work is just something that people do or can do, or they're born able to do. They think it's about being able to speak well, or, I don't know, being able to develop relationships.
Being eloquent is part of it, is it not?
It's certainly part of it, but that's not what makes somebody a good campaigner. What makes somebody a good campaigner is learning the craft. Like, there's real craft in this. The mistake I think a lot of NGOs and organizations make is they think, all right, I'm someone who cares about this issue, so I'm going to start an organization.
And people are going to listen to me.
Yeah, and people are going to listen to me, and then I'm going to be able to do things. And it doesn't work like that at all. So I made a lot of mistakes in my, I guess, early kind of parliamentary
Please name
career.
one. What was one mistake that you made?
Okay, this is embarrassing because I can't even believe I'm going to admit this. But I always, when I'm teaching my staff now, I'm like, you cannot make a mistake in any briefing material that you give a politician.
Right.
Not one. Because they have to trust you, and if they don't trust you, the relationship's dead and they won't use you.
Right.
So it's essential that everything's accurate. I once gave, this was years ago, I gave a speech to a very senior lawyer in the House of Lords. She read it out, and there was like one massive error in it. And it was so bad that she had to apologize to the House of Lords for having made that mistake, and that was my fault. I learned that lesson. I was really badly burned by that. So ever since then, I'm like, nothing goes out unless we are 100% sure.
Double check, triple check, quadruple check.
Exactly.
Right.
I've made many more mistakes than that, but that was a really bad one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about how to get things done, and it's not just, start a group and people are going to join and listen. So what's the right, if there is a right way to do it?
So I think what people, if I were pitching to people about how to do this craft, I would try to get them to look at things through what I call a kind of incentive lens. So I think people expect politicians to wake up in the morning and do the right thing because they're good people. I'm too hard-bitten to take that view. I take the view that if you want politicians to do things, you have to incentivize them to do it. But most campaigns are not like that, particularly human rights campaigns. Human rights campaigns will say, a terrible thing is happening over here. Do something about it. And I don't do that, and I've never done that. What I do instead is say, a terrible thing is happening over here. Okay. It's in your interest to do this because of this. And here's how I'm going to help you to look good to your constituents, to look good among your peers in your parliament.
That sounds like the best strategy, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's much more labor intensive.
There's so many questions I want to ask about that. But first, I want to just hop back to something that I've been meaning to ask you. And it has to do with social media.
Yeah.
After you joined Threads last November,
here we go.
Taiwanese netizens found you they found you very quickly, and within a short time, tens of thousands of people were just following you, and some were even comparing you to the looks of, the mayor of Taipei. With all these enthusiasm and support online, have you felt the love from Taiwan?
So this is a very embarrassing topic, and we can stay with it because I think it's kind of important. I mean, I'll tell you a story. Back in 2019,
right,
something.
Your first visit.
Well, my last visit to Hong Kong.
Okay.
I can't go back there. I'm named in Jimmy Lai's case, and
160 times.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't go back there as much as I'd love to. But in 2019, there was this kind of weird thing that happened. I'll tell you the story. One of the most hated politicians in Hong Kong is a guy called Junius Ho. He's not a nice guy. And together with a couple of politicians, I got his honorary doctorate in the UK taken away from him. And I was there in 2019 for the last 3 elections they had, the district council elections. And we went to his constituency. And I didn't realize this now because that guy was like, he's very embedded with triads and stuff, and he was surrounded by these guys. But I just walked straight up to him through those people and said, I was responsible for getting rid of your doctorate, basically, ha, ha, ha. And this went super, super viral in Hong Kong. And as a result of that, there was like a brief period of similar kind of attention based upon looks and stuff. And in that period of time, like, I'm just going to be honest with you, your ego really likes that kind of thing at one level.
Because why not?
And yeah, because why not? And it's easy to seek that stuff and to be drawn down a road thinking, I will get my meaning from this. I will get my sense of self from this. And in 2019, you know, pretty quickly, that popularity fell off.
But
and
was there an incident, or it just naturally fell off?
No, I think it's just the way it works.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just goes up and down. So having this like period in Taiwan, it's lovely. If it helps to promote our work, great. It's very flattering. I couldn't lie to you and say I don't like the attention. It's really nice. It makes me feel less old. And all of that.
Which, do you mind me asking?
My age?
Uh-huh.
I am 41.
You're not that old, come on.
I'm over the hill, man. Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
Do go on.
I'm done. I'm finished.
Okay.
I got 3 kids. If there are still people who are finding me attractive, I'm a happy guy.
Oh.
Anyway, so yeah, for as long as this period is something that we can use to try to raise awareness of our work, to make me feel good about myself at the same time, then it's like 2 ticks rather than 1. But the most important thing is that my team were particularly keen to use this as a channel to amplify what IPAC's work was about.
One of the questions I want to ask you, you know, the key word being Taiwan, why do you feel so connected with Taiwan, with us? That was that's my first question. And second is, well, so here's the brief background. So last year, Vice President Xiao Kim delivered a speech at the European Parliament, and that's an event widely seen as a major diplomatic breakthrough for Taiwan. And IPAC played a key role in making that happen. You've probably revealed that, you've previously revealed that many of the parliamentarians in attendance didn't actually know that Vice President Xiao herself would be speaking until the moment she actually physically walked into that room.
That's right, yes.
That's just, I don't understand how that works. How is that possible? Second question. And the next question is, for what was essentially a diplomatic level, like security and secrecy operation, what kind of planning and preparation went into making it happen?
All right, so in your first question, the issue was security. It was always going to be security around this. Remember that when she visited Prague, widely reported now, before she became VP, there was a planned kinetic attempt on her life. We couldn't take any chances around any of that. Not only that, we knew that the more noise there was about this and the more people who knew about it, the more likely it would be that Beijing would try to disrupt it. And they tried to disrupt it anyway, but we didn't want to increase that.
Of course.
So we kept it extremely quiet from everybody in the assembly until it actually happened. We did advertise that it was a special guest. Nobody guessed it was her, which was quite funny. So then she comes in and everyone's like, whoa. So yeah, I mean, the practicalities of keeping that quiet, relatively simple. Not so simple when you involve a lot of government agencies, which had to be involved in order to pull that thing off, because you don't know who they're talking to.
Right.
But we did okay. You know, we kept a lid on it. Certainly when it came to IPAC's own communications, we were very solid. On the second point, the second question was about what's required to pull something like that off. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you're like, oh, this might not actually happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. At several points. But
Give me.
Okay, let me talk you through it. The difficulty with this is that when you're dealing with the European Union,
Okay.
you're not dealing with one government.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with 27 member states. In addition to that, you've also got the parliament, which is in a country, which is Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to deal with that government. So what you're actually trying to negotiate is not something with a single country representing a single country's interests. You're trying to negotiate with
a
massive entity that represents loads of diverse countries' interests, some of which are worryingly pro-China.
Hungary being one of them?
Hungary would be a definite problem. And not only, there are some other countries in Europe that have got a less than realistic policy when it comes to China. But then in addition to that, you've also got to deal with Belgium. And Belgium itself will have its own view. So there was a lot that needed to be worked through in order to make this thing happen. There were a couple of breakthroughs on this. I think the major breakthrough was that we established that it could happen at all, which means, for the purposes of your listeners, I don't know how much everybody's into one China policies and one China principles. I don't want to go into too much detail, but what we established was that this kind of thing, with senior Taiwanese government representatives speaking in Western or democratic parliaments around the world, can happen if members of parliament have issued that invitation, and it's not something that a government should stand in the way of. So we've established that precedent, which is quite a big deal. But, we had to make sure that there was security for her. We had to make sure that there's protocol for her. These are all things that engage diplomatic arms of various governments. So there was a lot to do.
We don't have the time to talk about the difference between one China policy, which is what most countries abide by, I'll say that. And China claims that people should abide by one China principle, which is a totally different matter, but that's something for you to Google on your own. Thank you very much. Was during the planning process, you tried to keep it extremely quiet, of course, but did you ever encounter any pressure from just interesting people from China? Or were you so quiet that they didn't even know what was happening?
So the funny thing about this is that, first of all, I've got to credit your government, because there was a lot of work that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs did to make this thing happen. Not straightforward for them. And remember, even though they are excluded and marginalized, they still have diplomatic channels, and they maxed those out. They really did. So they did a great job. I'm not trying to say this is all us.
Don't say anything you're not supposed to, but How do they max out those channels?
Well, if you imagine that you can't get ministerial meetings as an ambassador,
in their capacity as,
then you've got to meet the people that you can, who very often don't have the discretion to say yes or no. And you've got to somehow negotiate with those people. Not straightforward at all.
So it's like staff or staff.
Yeah, because you're asking the people who don't have the ability to say yes or no, and you're asking them things which have potentially quite serious diplomatic consequences. Like, it's one of the many reasons that the downgrading of Taiwan, diplomatically speaking, is just exceptionally stupid, because it means you can't even have the necessary conversation. So even though they've got limited tools at their disposal, they did really, really well in their negotiations, I would say that.
Okay.
From our side, look, the truth is, let me be honest about it, there are people who are scared of diplomatic blowback from China, but Taiwan has a place in a lot of people's hearts across Europe and beyond, to the extent that I knew that when I was talking to people internally in the European Union, the mechanics of the European Union government, less so with Belgium, because I don't know those guys so well, but within the European Commission setup, etc., I knew I was talking to people who wanted this to happen. So I went to the right people to be able to poke the right sticks. And I mean, in the end, even though there was resistance, I felt we were pushing an open door. People who wanted it to happen, who felt it was appropriate to happen.
And once the event was actually over, did Beijing respond in ways that surprised you?
I think that the coercion that Taiwan has suffered, both with the president's visit to Eswatini, with the closing down of RightsCon, with the threatening of lawmakers around the world, I think all of that is due to Brussels.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the IPAC? What about IPAC members? Do they receive any kind of, coercion, harassment, threats from China after that speech?
Yes. Before and after, because I think Beijing got wind of it. They knew it was going to happen.
Okay.
So they tried, as they always do, to contact our members to tell them to stay away, that kind of thing. No one ever listens to that, except in some countries which are very economically exposed. And this is kind of too much detail, but for a lot of African politicians, in order to travel, they have to get permission. And permission is very easily denied.
Right.
So if you've got a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is like super close to China and decides that it doesn't want you to go to an IPAC summit, then it can stop you from going. And that has happened to us quite a bit. But to your question, and I think that this is a good one to be able to tell your audience, there are politicians around the world who, for the sake of standing up for Taiwan, get hammered all the time by Beijing. They threaten them, they threaten their party leaders, they try to coerce them, they use whatever leverage they can. This is happening all the time. In the past 2 months in Latin America, there are at least 10 in I think 4 different countries attempts to coerce our members because of work they're doing on Taiwan. We lost 4 countries out of IPAC because of Taiwan.
Which 4?
Solomon Islands, Malawi, the Gambia, and Zambia.
Okay.
In every case when they were threatening them, okay, so let's look at Malawi. Malawi was before the Brussels summit. It was our Taiwan summit, it's our Taipei summit in 2024. So we announced that Malawi had joined at that summit, August 2024. Within a month, the presidential office in Malawi hears from the Chinese who say, unless you get these guys to leave that network, we will cancel the presidential visit from Malawi to China. What are you going to do if you're a politician who comes from a place of
less strict
party discipline and really exposed to China? What are you going to do? Of course you're going to leave. They had no choice, and I don't blame them for doing it. But we lost them as a result of that. But they wrote us a letter which was clearly dictated to them by the Chinese embassy, because there was a whole paragraph in it about the one China principle, blah, blah, blah. You know. So it's good for your audience to know, because there are politicians who are taking a stand, who are doing the right thing, who are trying to stand by Taiwan, but they get hurt for it. They do.
It's very disheartening to hear that they had to remove themselves because of how exposed they were to China, I guess economically and maybe politically. Speaking of doing the right thing, your name, we talked about that infamous case in Hong Kong. Your name was listed as a co-conspirator in Jimmy Lai's trial.
Yeah.
When you found out that you were listed as a co-conspirator, what was your reaction? Did you laugh it off, or was there a moment where you realized just how far Beijing was willing to go?
I love this question, because a lot of the time when people get sanctioned and stuff like this happens, they say, it's a badge of honor. And I don't have that reaction. I think it's just sad. I think it's a sorry state of affairs that China has to be ruled by a party like this, and that the only way that they can deal with their deep insecurities and desperation for control is to victimize foreigners in that way, in these bizarre, spurious namings in cases or through sanctions. The Jimmy Lai stuff is, like, I can't overstate how ludicrous it is. So I barely know Jimmy Lai. I'd love to know him better. I had dinner with him twice. Other people there every time. And I got his number and exchanged a few texts. And my texts were pretty much always me sending him a press release, when I was like sending a press release to lots of other people, saying, hey, do something with this press release. Anyway, in his trial, all of this stuff is being read out, and the prosecution are like, this is the really terrible material here, which really shows how deeply embedded you were in IPAC. And I'm like, Jimmy Lai had nothing, not a thing to do with IPAC, nothing at all. You know, most of the time he didn't respond to my messages. There was one where I said, please RT, and he responds, what's RT?
Yeah, what is RT?
Retweet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's like, what's RT? And I'm like, it's retweet. And this is being read out in court. This is how completely mad the Hong Kong situation is. So there's a part of me that wants to laugh it off, and there's a part of me that wants to go like, oh, you know.
Badge of honor.
Badge of honor. But the reality is, it's extremely sad. You know, unless things change, Jimmy Lai will die in jail. He hasn't done anything wrong. We have been used as spurious accomplices in all of that. The saddest part of the story for me is that in order to try to pin IPAC on Jimmy, they had to use a guy called Andy Lee, who you might not have heard of, but he was one of the 12 Hong Kongers who tried to escape to Taiwan. They caught that boat in Chinese waters, took them to Shenzhen, and Andy was mistreated in prison there.
They confiscated all his belongings, including his phone, and they mistreated him. Mistreating being, please use your imagination. I've heard you mention his name in one of the interviews that you did. Do you know where he is right now?
Yeah, he's in prison in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. I find this difficult to talk about because I feel so sad for Andy. What happened to him was completely unfair and awful. You've got to imagine, like, there were some other people in that boat who may have actually done things wrong, or at least that other people would look at and understand in the context of resistance. But Andy was completely non-violent. All he ever did was try to encourage others, gave his time to everybody. He ended up, it seems, suffering worse than anybody in prison because of his association with international groups. And what they did with Andy is they tried to get him to become, well, he was a prosecution witness for Jimmy Lai. And it's just like, it's all made up. Like, so they also named my colleague, my Japan director, Shiori Kano. Shiori never ever met Jimmy Lai, ever. They also named Bill Browder. Bill Browder had never even heard of Jimmy Lai and then gets named as a co-conspirator. Like, honestly, and it's only because Andy had copied them into an email because we were setting something up for some Japanese lawmakers. So that just shows you how ludicrous the thing is. I don't know why it is, but the CCP has to have like a big bad boss. It's like, you have to have a Bowser. You have to have a character who's like the final boss level. And they've decided that that's Jimmy. I don't know why, but they've decided that it's him. So they're trying to pin the whole thing on him. They're trying to pin our work to some degree on him. It's all made up. It's all made up. And I find the whole thing, I can't laugh at it. I can't laugh at it because there's too much suffering involved in it. But it is, like we would say, it's like Alice through the looking glass. It's like a completely invented, bizarre world. It's weird to me to think that in a serious court, or what should be a serious court in Hong Kong, they're going through my text messages to Jimmy Lai.
Please retweet.
Please RT. What's RT? It's like, yeah, this is a really serious crime, clearly. I mean, honestly, yeah.
But speaking of which, I want to talk about the big elephant in the room, being China's ethnic unity and progress promotion law. On paper, it sounds harmless enough. You know, no, unity, we like unity, do we not? But critics argue that the law's language is just so broad and so vague that it effectively gives Beijing a legal basis to intervene wherever and whenever it claims ethnic unity is at stake. Is that a fair assessment of the law?
Yes. So this follows a pattern that I think we've seen in the past few years. As I think the CCP's insecurities have got wilder, they have sought to try to expand their competence beyond their own jurisdiction even more. So, you know, the Hong Kong National Security Law does this. It claims to have application all over the world, you know, as if the CCP can govern the law of other people's countries. It's just the whole thing is a ludicrous idea, but they've denuded themselves into thinking that. So this is the latest iteration of that. I think the difficulty with this is that it's predicated on a notion of what it means to be Chinese, which is not reflected by the Chinese people, which obviously has a great deal of diversity within it. That whole kernel of what people would call Han chauvinism or Han supremacism, having found its way into expression, legal expression, should worry us all, because I think it codifies a trend which wasn't there that strongly like 10, 15 years ago. Don't get me wrong, there's been persecution throughout that period of time, of course. But it wasn't there in the same way. So openly expressed and now codified in law, you know, in order to basically eradicate diversity.
I've never heard that term you used just now, Han chauvinism, but that's such a good way of putting it. Speaking of codifying it into law, how, from your perspective, how concerned should people in Taiwan and democracies around the world be about this law?
So I don't want to alarm people, because Beijing does stuff like this, and it's recognized, I think, by every other country as like a really ridiculous overstep.
It is.
But you have to acknowledge, unfortunately, that Chinese interference is getting much worse. Chinese transnational repression, basically bullying people overseas, is getting much worse.
Yes.
The persuasion to return operations where they use people's families to force people to come home so they can prosecute them is getting worse. All of these tactics are getting worse. And against that backdrop, there are risks, right? There are risks. So, for example, when I was named in Andy Lee's case, the UK Foreign Office pulled me in and said, we don't really understand how the Hong Kong national security law works. But what we do know is that you might be vulnerable to criminal charges. So don't go to any place that has an extradition agreement with China or with Hong Kong.
Even for you?
Yeah. So I'm like...
A UK lawmaker?
Yeah, so this is like 53 countries, yeah. So, which includes France, includes Italy. So they say...
Thailand even. Like it's,
Thailand,
yeah.
And Thailand would worry me now, seriously. So I am in a very privileged position in the sense that I hold a UK passport. I am not like a dissident from China who's moved to the UK or a Hong Konger who's on a BNO visa or whatever. Those guys are very exposed. And if they find themselves going to third countries which are very close to China, who want to help them hound dissidents under this ethnic unity law, that is a real prospect that I don't think we should dismiss.
I'm still reeling from the fact that even you suffer from what the Foreign Office told you. People in Taiwan, like me, like a lot of people in Taiwan, we know not to travel. Like we will never, like go to Hong Kong like ever again, just because it's not safe. We don't even fly Cathay because I think it's like Hong Kong owner operated.
It is.
And so, so being on that aircraft carrier, like not aircraft, I'm sorry, being on that aircraft, it's just we're just exposed. And I thought it was just us, you know, the renegade Taiwanese people. I didn't realize even for a British MP, you would be exposed so greatly as well.
So the problem is that the UK government can't do a great deal about it if something goes wrong.
Really?
Yeah, so they can do, well, look at Jimmy Lai. He's a British citizen. Have they succeeded in getting Jimmy Lai out? No. He's been a priority, so-called, for the UK government for years. And what have they managed to do to make his treatment better? It doesn't say much for the weight and power of the UK government. So if there were a third country where the relationship with China was such that they might enable the hounding of other people, then I wouldn't put it past them. We know that China has misused Interpol to go after various people. It's possible. However, it's not likely. Yeah? So one of the countries that has an extradition agreement with China is France. I've been to France. There's not going to be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen. And it would be such a massive escalation if they were to do it, that it would be a very stupid thing to do. So I enjoy protections that dissidents don't have. You shouldn't compare me with those guys. Those guys are really exposed, and this law is targeting them more than it's targeting people like me. That's what's worrying about it. Governments have not done a good job in standing up for those people who are particularly exposed because of this kind of transnational repression.
Is the UK government doing a good job?
I don't think so, no. I think that we've gone backwards on China. I think that even though there is a parliamentary consensus on China, and that's gone in the right direction, the government is in a different place. And that's partly because it was designed by some people from the golden era of relations with China, you know, so like 15 years ago. But our policy is not very realistic in the sense that we're not really defending UK resilience, we're not preparing for possible escalation in cross-strait tensions, we're very dependent. All of these kinds of questions we're not handling right, in my view.
Both Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party and Taiwan's People Party have joined IPAC. Yet Taiwan's largest opposition party, the Kuomintang, remains notably absent. When Legislative Yuan President Han Kuo-yu led a cross-party delegation to the United Kingdom, you revealed that IPAC actually made several attempts to try to arrange a meeting with him in London, but those efforts were ultimately declined. And you've also said that IPAC invited the KMT to attend its annual summit on 3 separate occasions, and never once did you receive a response. Was that all true, what I said?
Pretty much, yeah.
What do you think explains the Kuomintang's reluctance to engage with IPAC?
So I think what I'd say, first of all, and it's important to underline this, I don't have any skin in the game here, in the sense that I don't vote for any of these people.
Well,
I'm not Taiwanese. I would be very open to discussions with the KMT. That's always been our position, and I've worked pretty hard in order to try to bring that about. You know, I want to have those discussions. And the reason we want to have those discussions is that the work that IPAC is doing internationally is mainly on the basis of other countries' interests, because people are really worried about this region. But we can't do that work accurately unless we're sure that what we're doing reflects the will of the people here. Where I've really struggled with the KMT is that these guys, I don't know, they just don't seem to like me very much.
Okay. I wonder why.
But I do wonder why, because, you know, so the summit's a good example. When we were organizing this summit in Taipei, quite a big deal, you know, it was the largest group of international lawmakers that's ever come here. And I wanted to make sure that the legislative yuan was properly represented.
Of course.
So I started talking to the KMT, what must have been 6 months at least before it happened. They ghosted me. So then I wrote a letter to the president of the legislative yuan, Han Kuo-yu, and I said, hey, why don't you nominate a group, a cross-party group, whoever you want, I don't care, and send them to our summit.
As long as your presence here is.
Yeah, please go for it. No response. So then I asked the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA, invite every member of the legislative yuan to our summit. They did. Not one single response from the KMT. So the thing that really, I mean, that's one thing, but the thing that was bad was that when the summit happened, the media then came and said to the KMT, are you boycotting this? And they said we weren't invited. And all I would say about that is that...
What was the response? We didn't know about this?
They said we were not invited. Okay, now I have put more effort into inviting the KMT than any other political party in the world, right? It wasn't correct, it wasn't accurate. So I found myself looking at that and thinking, okay, my struggle in doing this work is that I need to be able to speak to people candidly and honestly about challenges that we all face. That's my job, basically. If people are not going to be honest to me, I've got a real problem. I'm wanting to be able to talk to these guys. I don't care if they disagree with me or even disagree with IPAC. I don't even determine the whole of IPAC's policy. It's a consensus thing. But my network comprises the politicians who are most active on Taiwan around the world. So you should be talking to us. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Is it rude and is it uncommon for someone to just ghost you like that?
Yeah, it's never happened to me.
Because normally we'd be like, I'm sorry, but we decline your invitation because of scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
They would make up an excuse for not being there, but they would just ghost you.
So people often come back saying, I can't make it.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that a lot.
Yeah.
But no, you know, so, I mean, I invited one of our US co-chairs, Senator Merkley, Democrat, to something recently, and very elegant note back, as you'd expect when you get a formal invitation to something, saying, I'm really sorry, I can't make it. No response at all is very unusual, but I could forgive that. The thing that I find difficult is saying, then you were not invited, because that's just false.
That's just lying, I'm sorry.
Well, and I want to be careful, because I don't want to throw around insults at people, but at the same time, I do think that, you know, your listeners have a right to know. There is an international network which is kind of like slogging it out to do what it can to help Taiwan. It's really working away. And I've never been treated like that by any other political party in the world. Never. So all I would say is, I'm here, I'm open to meet, delighted to meet. We're getting on very well with the TPP, by the way. And I really hope that someone in the KMT sees sense and is like, oh yeah, maybe we should be speaking to those guys.
How do you view the increasingly bitter partisan division within Taiwan's legislature and the message that it sends to, you know, the international community?
Okay, follow my logic for a second.
Yeah.
In order to maintain peace, Taiwan has to have international support, okay?
Yeah.
So point number one.
Yes.
Point number two, in order for Taiwan to have international support, it's got to be very clear about what it is and isn't willing to do, about what it wants. So imagine that you're a lawmaker and you're a government, a foreign government, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've got problems in that part of the world. We have to deter conflict. We can't allow it to happen. So how do we do that? Well, let's think. What are the tools we have available to us? What do the Taiwanese think, okay? And then you start to throw into the equation doubt about the willingness of Taiwan to defend itself, the willingness of Taiwan to arm itself, what the Taiwanese people want vis-a-vis China. Do you think that doubt is helpful or not for the international support that you must have in order to maintain peace? My answer would be very unhelpful. So here's what I get from people, yeah? I'm not going to say who this was. This is an American lawmaker. It was a dinner. It was a private dinner, so I'm just going to report what was said without saying who it was. He cuts into the dinner and he goes, Taiwan isn't going to fight. And people are like, what do you mean? It's like, I've been there. They're not going to fight. Why should I send my kids to die when they're not going to fight? Right? He would not be saying...
That was really good.
Thank you.
Go on.
It's actually not a bad impression.
That was really good.
Why do you think he was able to say that stuff? He was able to say that stuff because of the confusion which is coming out of the legislative yuan. Now, I want to be really clear about this. It's not for me to tell Taiwanese politicians how to behave.
Right.
But what I can do is I can react to it. And I can say, from the perspective of UK interests, that's super unhelpful. Because how can we possibly cohere an international group of nations to collectively deter escalation in cross-strait tensions when we're not sure about what Taiwan wants? Now, let me be clear. The government's very clear. The government's very clear. But if you've got controversies from the legislative yuan, which are making all this noise and throwing doubt on that, it's not going to help Taiwan internationally.
Now that you mentioned that one lawmaker from the U.S. who shall remain nameless, I want to ask you this: as political landscapes just change dramatically across Europe, North America, Taiwan, I feel like inevitably faces the risk of becoming more isolated internationally. You've argued that Taiwan cannot afford to be like a passive actor for others to, come to its rescue, and that it must clearly articulate what it stands for rather than allow its voice to be marginalized.
Yeah.
So, in your view, what is Taiwan's strongest strategic asset when it comes to making its case to the democratic world?
Prospective economic damage of escalation.
Let's say that again.
All right, so let me stick with this. The thing people care about more than the potential of a war thousands of miles away is their own economies. And it's pretty clear from most of the serious economic forecasting that has been done that if there were to be kinetic conflict here, you would be looking at least 10 trillion, 10% of global GDP wiped off the map, probably getting worse over time. So at least 5 times worse than the Ukraine war, worse than COVID, the economic contraction because of COVID. If you were to ask me, what's going to really change the political debate, it's going to be realization that they have skin in the game. Right now, we're still in this weird place where, for whatever reason, there's not enough recognition of how important stability is to the rest of the global economy. Now, some politicians are waking up to that, but awareness is still low. What I would love to do is I would love for everybody in every constituency, in every democracy, to know exactly how much they would lose out of their pocket if their politicians failed to stop this from happening. And I'll tell you, it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot. We're talking massive inflation, gas and electricity hikes, iPhones going up like 10-fold minimum in terms of pricing, stuff not working, not being able to buy new stuff, not being able to replenish any supplies of anything that requires chips. I mean, it goes on and on. But the secondary economic effects, absolutely devastating. You know, in the Bloomberg modeling, did you see the Bloomberg modeling, the $10 trillion thing? They projected that South Korea would lose 1/3 of its GDP in a kinetic scenario. 1/3 of its GDP.
It's not a small number.
It's like, we're talking untold economic depression.
Unfathomable almost.
And cannot be allowed. But we're not in that mental zone yet where people are in the cannot be allowed zone. I think the EU is slowly waking up to it. The States have been alive to it for some time. The rest of the world, sleepwalking. You know, they need to be woken up. That isn't going to happen until voters know. I would love voters to know that the cost to them of the political failure to deter and to de-escalate conflict, because it's politicians, yeah.
Right.
Their head should be on the block.
Right. Why are some people not heeding that warning?
I think awareness is too low. There's not enough research about it. It's not been done cleverly enough. It still feels very far away to people. It feels remote.
Well,
you know, it's like Taiwan. You know,
right.
it's miles away. More interested in what's going on right now. There are loads of other conflicts ongoing right now, distracting people's attention, costing us a lot of money. You know, Ukraine in the Middle East, any number of conflicts right now. A lot of instability. And I think that against that background, it is quite hard to fight for attention for these sorts of things. But awareness is still low. So honestly, I think the key to shifting the political debate on Taiwan in many countries around the world is that you get voters to realize, you get them to realize, and then their politicians will know that failing to act to prevent this clearly foreseeable disaster was their fault. And we've got to change that calculus.
I've heard that you, because of the work that you do, I've heard that you, your family, and even your friends have been subjected to extensive online surveillance and harassment and even impersonation attempts over the years. And in some cases, people have allegedly used your name to send just malicious phishing emails to people close to you.
Yeah.
Well, of course, without revealing anything sensitive, can you share one of the most just extraordinary experiences you've had, something to might have made you, you know, stop and think, well, this feels like straight out of a spy movie?
So I heard that there were dating profiles that were made with my photograph.
It probably worked.
Yeah, so if you've matched with somebody who looks like me, it's not me.
Oh,
okay.
I was hoping. Okay.
Yeah, we go.
Okay.
Yeah, swipe whatever way you swipe.
Oh, Luke.
Yeah, hit the X. So I heard there was that. The impersonation thing was quite weird because obviously I'm a Conservative Party member. My membership to the Conservative Party was resigned on my behalf by an impersonator. And the weird thing about it is that I thought, okay, this was just done online, right? I thought maybe that was it, but no, he called them up. And I don't know what accent he did. Apparently he sounded English. And he resigned my Conservative Party membership. Apparently I was so upset with the then Conservative Foreign Secretary that I wanted to leave the Conservative Party. And this worked. He managed to resign my membership. It was quite a weird thing. But it's low-level stuff, this online thing. They put so much effort into it. Constant harassment from bots and trolls. I do not care at all. Don't care. I think if they think that this works at any level, they're really wasting their time. I mean, look, there are people who go through much more than me. One of our colleagues in IPAC, who also works for an organization called Safeguard Defenders, Laura Harth, she recently had a whole bunch of AI pornography made of her because Safeguard Defenders has exposed like Chinese police stations and stuff. So all of this stuff was going around. That's way worse for her. But she's strong, so she's brushing it off as well. But it's fairly constant. If anything, it's a minor annoyance. What worries me more than the actual attacks contained within it is the fact that it skews the discourse.
When your private life, your friendships, and even your family become exposed to, you know, these, you call it annoyance, but some others might call it surveillance, harassment,
and the risks associated with just transnational repression because of your support for Taiwan and Hong Kong. Have you had a moment where you probably have answered this question before, but have you ever had a moment where you questioned whether it was all worth it?
Thank you for this question because it gives me an opportunity to reflect on something. I think I'm very fortunate, having had the background and upbringing that I've had. I've always had a very deeply rooted sense of justice, I guess, and even if I've struggled to live right, I've known what right was, always. You know, I'm not trying to hold myself up as any kind of paragon of Christian virtue, but I know what I would want to aspire to be. And I've never had any single shake in confidence that I was doing the right thing in doing this work. And I see that government with clarity. I know what it is, and I know that it poses tremendous threat to the world that we understand. So I've never been shaken from that, even if sometimes it's felt a lot. The stuff with Andy was a lot. It was a lot. You know, I bear a lot of guilt around that and find that really hard. But I never came out of it thinking, therefore, I should just abandon this thing. If anything, it's the opposite. If anything, it consolidates the effort. And you find this in some places, by the way, when China tries to bully our lawmakers. In some places it works. In some places it has a totally counterproductive effect for them.
Well, I'm glad it backfired.
Yeah, well so let me tell you about Panama. We were struggling to bring in Panama into IPAC. It's quite hard. And I think the Chinese learned about it. So then they tried to threaten these Panamanians not to join IPAC. And they were so upset about it that we then ended up with 15 members.
Okay.
So sometimes it can work against them. So I think the reason I like your question is that I'm able to express how fortunate I think I am to have that depth of conviction about it. I don't judge people who don't have that. You know, for people who want to walk away because they can't handle it, I don't judge you. I understand. I can understand it can get too much. When you have to drag in family and friends into this thing and expose other people, it's tough as well. And obviously that should factor into people's decision making. But in terms of my own sense of moral clarity about it, I have complete confidence that I have to do this. And I'm not shaken from that.
That's you. But have your family, your friends ever asked you to maybe not stop, but maybe step back just a little bit, you know, be more cautious, or maybe walking away for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my parents don't really like it.
Okay, for starters.
My family members don't really understand it. I think, so a lot of my immediate family are very hard left. And they, like a lot of people who don't know enough about the situation, sorry family, they, like a lot of folk, will assume that anyone picking up this issue who's like loosely placed on centre-right politics is in some way doing this as a proxy thing for the United States. It's basically what Beijing says, you know. It's like, you guys are all just doing the foreign policy of the United States. And I think some of my family kind of believe that, although they never dare say it to me. That's not actually what motivates any of this stuff. So yeah, you know, I've had people say, stop it, jack it in. But I don't know, what would the world be if we just like chucked away the things that needed to be done because they got difficult? I don't know, for me, it's like a cannot compete moment.
Is there an end game to what you do?
Yes, I think there is. And this is, again, I love this question because people say to us, you're never going to change China.
Sorry, I'm going to say it. You're never going to change China. I'm sorry, but...
Well, which is fine because we're not intending to. I set up this network to change the way that other governments orchestrate or develop their policy towards China. I was never so vain and conceited to think that we could tell Beijing what to do. But I do know what we can do. We can get lawmakers around the world in their own parliaments to say, our policy on China is hopeless. We need to have a better one and work towards it. And that's working. So we will change that. And we are changing that. And we have, in many places, changed that. I'm proud of that. That's what can work. Whereas trying to tell Beijing what to do and what not to do, that's harder to make work. I agree with you on that. So the end game is that. The end game is that we're in a place where the democratic world can defend itself. And right now it's not.
For everyday Taiwanese, I guess one of the questions that people might be wondering is, so recently, Chairman Cao Xing-seng, whom you met, have you met him? Chairman Cao, he pledged a $1 million donation to IPAC, and which is obviously a sizable contribution.
Yep.
But for ordinary Taiwanese people, we don't have $1 million to spare. I'm sorry. Well, but we still care deeply about Taiwan's future and our democracy. But we face pressure from the Chinese Communist Party every day in our own way. So for those watching this interview, what are some practical things ordinary Taiwanese, just ordinary citizens can do to support your IPAC's mission and help strengthen just democratic resilience?
Okay.
Or is it very limited?
No, there's a load that people can do. I think, I kind of want to reframe your question because I want to say IPAC's work on Taiwan is nothing if it's not wanted here. So what we're doing on Taiwan, I hope is what you also want to do.
Oh, it very much is.
And if that's the case, I think that everybody here and everybody listening to your show should realize the power of their voice in their own little environment. Because they will be working with people who don't know about the history of Taiwan, who don't know about the politics of Taiwan, who haven't had the benefit of that learning and who need it. They really need it. Let me put it this way. It's kind of on you to tell the world about you. It can't be left to others and proxies. It's on you to do it. And it's happening right now. I mean, you've just had somebody win a very senior book writing prize. Who was that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the Man Booker Prize, right? Mm-hmm. Excellent.
International Booker Prize.
Yeah. So we've got some projection of Taiwanese cultural identity. That's great. Mm-hmm. But in everybody's sphere, there are people that you can talk to and that you can speak to about the people that you are and what you want, which is more valuable than anything else. And it's going to seem like that is an easy thing to say or a perfunctory thing to say. Like, I really, really mean it. I think that if I can be so bold, culturally speaking, there is too much reticence to assert yourself. Like, we are Taiwanese, this is what we want. We really need that internationally. It's got to come from the people of Taiwan. So more important than anything else, more important than giving us money or supporting me or whatever, that's more important. Assert your identity to the world in whatever way you can would be my appeal. Because without really knowing and understanding, people are not going to care. So that's kind of number one. I think when it comes to our lawmakers around the world, they are getting beaten up, and anything that you can do to help them is great. And by help them, I mean, I don't know, like retweet them. Like this stuff helps, really. The Hong Kong movement did that so well in 2019. So you'd find like any Western lawmaker that spoke up about Hong Kong would find themselves with like 5,000 retweets, and normally they get 10. That incentivized them. Back to what I was saying about incentives earlier on. It incentivized them because politicians are driven by ego, right? So genuinely, like amplifying what politicians around the world are saying on Taiwan, that's a good thing to do. It's easy as well. In terms of us, you're right about Mr. Cao. He was very, very kind to us. He's helped us a huge amount. And we're very lucky to have his support. The scope of the work that I'm trying to do with IPAC is ridiculously ambitious. You know, the CCP has 100 million members and is the second largest economy in the world. I don't have that. So I need to build this work as much as possible. If people want to support us financially, that's great. You can do that through the website. And thank you to the many people who have supported us already, and I hope will continue to. But you know, the main thing is assert yourself on the global stage. You don't have to rely on proxies to do it, like us. You don't even have to rely on your government to do it. You have your own sphere of influence, use it.
That was so beautifully put, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. We cannot just sit idly by and be like, well, that guy from the UK, he's got it. Yeah. That's not how things are supposed to be done. Before we end this, I just want to say that I was listening to one of the podcasts, the interviews that you did a while back, and you said, and I quote, this guy said this: "I have been consistently surprised by Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party's appetite for self-harm." That was in a China Desk podcast interview from last year. I'm bringing it up for no reason other than I just really like the way you put it. Thank you so much.
You do your research, huh?
I try.
You even listen to that one.
Okay. Thank you, Luke de Pulford, for coming to our show. And how many days are you going to be in Thailand for this time?
Oh, it's like 5. It's almost nothing.
Yeah, it's not very long.
I know.
I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, no, I will be here again.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank
Pleasure.
小姐讲，下次见，拜拜。